Never approach sewing with a sigh or lackadaisical attitude. Good results are difficult when indifference predominates. Never try to sew with a sink full of dishes or bed unmade. When there are urgent housekeeping chores, do these first so that your mind is free to enjoy your sewing. When you sew, make yourself as attractive as possible. Go through a beauty ritual of orderliness. Have on a clean dress. Be sure your hands are clean, fingernails smooth. Have your hair in order, powder and lipstick put on with care. Looking attractive is a very important part of sewing, because if you are making something for yourself, you will try it on at intervals in front of your mirror, and you can hope for better results when you look your best. If you are constantly fearful that a visitor will drop in or your husband will come home and you will not look neatly put together, you will not enjoy your sewing as you should. Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Saucy Seamstress. I'm the Saucy Seamstress, Christine, and welcome to the channel. Today's video is a little bit different. It's not a vlog. It's, well, I guess you could call it a closer look, but today we're going to be talking about sewing machines. Weird, huh? Because I've told you a couple of times, if you've watched my other videos, that I prefer to hand sew. But there are times when I just want to zip something through a machine and be done with it. Or, you know, there are times when I'm making like vintage patterns that I sew them by machine, because, you know, sometimes we'll need not necessarily instant gratification, but like to get a job done quickly, right? And so a machine will do that for you. And I see a lot on vintage message boards and Facebook groups and historical sewing message boards and Facebook groups and costuming groups, people who are just getting started asking, I want to buy a sewing machine. Should I buy a vintage machine? Should I buy a modern machine? The answer is really a kind of complex. It really depends on you. When you ask people what they prefer, that's what they prefer. So it really comes down to what you are looking to get out of your machine, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's go through some pros and cons, okay? So a lot of people fall in love with the aesthetics of vintage machines, and there is no doubt that they are designed to be visually appealing, and we love them, right? Two-toned turquoise pink machines, shiny black ones that have like the decoration and the gold paint are gorgeous. They are just well designed. And so we sometimes get sucked in by appearances, and that's okay. That's okay. If you are looking for something to put on your shelf, I mean, I own 5 vintage machines. 2 of them are functional right now. The Visetti machine, I don't have a pedal for it, I don't have a plug for it, but that just sits on a shelf. A friend gave that to me, thought I would like it, and I do, I love it. So it's on a shelf. It's there for aesthetics. It's there to be set dressing for my life. And that's okay. If that's what you're looking for, we'll talk a little bit later about some things you need to watch out for when you're buying a machine, but let's run through sort of the pros and cons of a vintage machine. Pros. Now I will tell you that I am biased, right? I started sewing on an inexpensive brother that my husband gave me for Christmas when we were newly married, and I wanted to learn how to sew, and it took me several years to actually put that machine to much use. But when I started really sewing, really using it, it just wasn't doing the trick, right? So then I upgraded sort of to a Janome, and I like it okay. But a friend pretty recently gave me this Brother Atlas machine, and I put the Janome away. Like, I like this thing. I like the feel of it. I like the sound of it. The stitches are good. It is heavy duty. It is a workhorse, right? I like this machine, so I think this is going to be my go-to machine. But pros, they're sturdy. And my husband picked it up for me. He brought it in, and he was like, here's that thing that Tori left you, and I was like, it's heavy, wasn't it? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, yes. So these are very heavy machines. They are made of metal. They're made of metal parts. They are sturdy. Now, additionally, they're fixable. They're simple. They're not simple machines. I can't fix my own machine, but there's no computer involved, so there are less things to break. They're repairable and reliable. We already talked about how cute they are, right? They just look nice sitting out in your sewing room. And oftentimes they are cheap. You can find vintage machines on lots of marketplace, like Facebook Marketplace, eBay. That I don't know how you would buy one on eBay because the shipping would be so expensive unless you're lucky enough to find one locally. In my area, the Salvation Army will save up like all the donated fabric, thread, embroidery floss, anything that has to do with textiles and fibers. And they have like a fabric sale once a year, and there are always sewing machines for sale that you can pick up for less than $30, and that is a good price. So you can find a very affordable sewing machine. And going back to their metal parts and then being fixable and reliable, these machines were built to last. Often they were built to be handed down, right? Like, so it's not you're going to replace this machine in a couple of years and get a new one that has better and newer features. This was made to be your lifetime machine. And this Atlas was a sensational value at $199.50, and I think around 1957. Because the Brother Atlas partnership, I think, was like from like 52 to 62 or something like that. Some other things, some problems though. Everything is manual. So if you are looking for a machine that will auto adjust your tension, this ain't it, chief. Move on. They're more difficult to thread. They're harder to find someone to fix and service. And I say that because if there's customer service involved in a company that still exists, that's still making that brand of machine. And often you can take it into a sewing machine shop and have them repair it. Now, the flip side of that is that they're probably going to try to upsell you, but that's something we'll talk about later. If it doesn't come with an instruction book, it can take you a little bit of a Google search to find one, especially for the older machines. So it can be kind of a challenge to find manuals to show you how to thread it, to show you how to clean it, to show you how to do all the things that you need to do to your sewing machine. There are also different bobbin sizes. Now we use, I think, standard 15 size bobbin. My featherweight, that is not the size that it takes. And so I have to order some special bobbins for my featherweight to get it running, and that's one of the machines that's actually functional. If you find vintage machine that you love. Okay, so you found one, it's in your price range, it's super cute. What do? If you at all can, you need to see that thing run, but you need to see it go, and you need to see it sew something, if at all possible. It is good to have them turn it on and show you that it moves and it's not seized up and that power is still connecting, and that's all good. Those are all good things. But if at all possible, see it stitch. Test it. Test a machine. Test it if at all possible. And if they're not going to let you test it, be suspicious. Or, maybe they just don't want to take the trouble. Then you tell them that you're going to pay less money, because if there's something wrong, you have to pay to get it fixed, and you have to find somebody to fix it. If you're going to look for a vintage machine, is there somebody in your area who can and will service it? Does it come with all of its parts? Now, I've been burned by this before by the Singer featherweight that I saw and just had to have. I bought it. I paid a pretty okay price for it. When I got it home and opened it up, he showed me that it turned on and that it moved. But then when I sat down to actually sew with it, I realized there was no bobbin case. So I ordered a bobbin case. And then, because I'm a little bit dumb, went to sit down and sew with it and realized that it takes a different size bobbin. So now I have to order different size bobbins. Am I sad I bought the thing? No, I'm actually really glad I have it. But it's been a little bit of a headache because I didn't do my homework. So what you want to do, if they'll let you get up close and personal with the machine, check the belt. You can't see what I'm pointing to. Check the belt. Is it dry? Is it cracked? Is it going to need replaced? right away. Does it come with instructions? Can they be found online? Okay, and if you can do a quick Google search when you see the machine or when you're, looking at it, do it. And if if there are none to be found, then maybe think twice about it. If you're ready to keep searching, and to play with the machine to figure out how to run it properly, more power to you. But that is less patience than I have. If you found a machine that you love, when considering the price that you're going to pay for it, understand that it's probably going to need some service. Whether that's cleaning, whether that's just it's greasing, if you don't know how to oil your machine and grease the gears, or even repairs. Just make sure, if they are asking you for some astronomical price because it's a vintage machine and it's super special and super rare, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, just keep that in mind, that there is going to be work that's going to need to be done, and if you own that machine, it's coming out of your pocket. Along with the price, some of the most popular vintage machines, like the Singer Featherweight, are not rare machines. They made a lot of them. So if somebody is really being a stickler on the price, and do some research, what is a good price? But if somebody is really just not being reasonable, move on. You'll find another one. I promise. But you also need to take into consideration if a vintage machine is for you. What kind of sewing do you want to be able to do? Do you want a machine that is going to automatically adjust the tension for you? Do you want a machine that you can just drop the bobbin in? Do you want a machine that's going to be super simple to thread? If so, a vintage machine is probably not for you. So you have to decide what you need in your sewing life. Do you want to use your machine to also overlock? You might be able to find a vintage machine that has a couple of stitches, and that would be fine. But if you want something that's going to do buttonholes, decorative stitches, that's not the case. I think it really just does come down to preference and what your needs are. If you are really thinking about getting a modern machine, there are pros and cons there. Now, pros, easy threading. You can get automated everything. It's easier to find shops that can and will work on your machine, and you have customer service lines available to you if there is something wrong with your machine out of the box, or even later on down the road. Cons, you're gonna have to pay for a good machine. Like I said, that cheap little brother, once I really got into sewing and kind of understood what I was doing, not great. And I think sometimes with these new machines, they give you too many unnecessary options. Why do you need 20 different stitches? Who's using all of those? I'm not. If you are, let me know in the comments. If it does break, there are more things that can go wrong, because not only do you have all the mechanical parts, but you have a computer system in there too. All machines need service and cleaning, and I think for most of us, we don't get them serviced and cleaned as often as we should, if ever. So that's just something that will need to happen, and shops, regardless of what machine you bring in, unless it's absolutely brand new, will try to upsell you. Okay, so if you go in there and you want your machine fixed, be prepared for them to tell you that it's not worth it and that you should just buy a new one. And if you do decide to go with the cheap modern machine, be prepared for it to do you dirty, because that's kind of the thing. Leave a comment. What's your preference? If you're an experienced sewer, or if you're just learning, let me know what you're learning on. Kind of interested to hear what the vintage and historic costuming community is working on and what they prefer, because I have a theory that you prefer what you learned on usually. And I just want to know if my theory is correct. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and if you're interested in the content that I'm creating here, hit, just subscribe. Ciao. So anyway, that's all for today, and we'll see you maybe next week. Bye.